Do you know anyone who's always tired? No matter how much they sleep, how much coffee they drink, or how many breaks they take, feeling like they accomplish nothing. Some people try to fix their tiredness with more energy drinks, better sleep schedules, or productivity hacks, but they always end up back in the same place, drained, burned out, barely surviving. You've probably met someone who said they were going to fix their energy problem. This person started sleeping 8 hours, drinking more water, eating healthy, trying to exercise. But when stress from work, family, endless notifications, and life's pressure hit, all that effort fell apart, and this person went back to being exhausted all the time. I know this happens all the time, and maybe that person is you. But what if I told you there's a method used by one of history's greatest warriors that can help you stop feeling tired, including dealing with burnout, constant fatigue, or that feeling of being drained no matter what you do? And best of all, it's a super simple system. This system comes from Miyamoto Musashi, the greatest swordsman in Japanese history, and combines concepts such as rhythm, emptiness, non-attachment, stillness, and alignment. But I need to warn you that this goes against what most self-help gurus and productivity coaches teach about energy. It goes against what the modern world tells you every day, and it will require you to understand something that seems too simple to work. So simple that you'll think I'm wasting your time until you see the results. Before I show you exactly how this system functions, I invite you to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment on what makes you most tired in your daily life. I receive many comments from people who have applied what we teach on this channel to their lives and have experienced real transformation, and I'm happy to read each of your feedback. Thank you so much for your attention. Now, back to the video. Chapter 1. The moment you lost your energy. Today, I'm going to tell you the story of a man named David. David was 35 years old, worked 60 hours a week, and was dying slowly without realizing it. He wasn't a lazy guy. He'd built a successful career in marketing, worked his way up for 10 years. He woke up at 6 a.m. and got home at 8 p.m. A girlfriend he barely saw, bills to pay, promotions to chase. The typical ambitious guy who forgot he had a soul, his life, whatever kept him busy, checking emails before bed, scrolling through feeds during lunch, working through weekends because he wanted to get ahead. He told himself he was building something, but deep down, he was just running. His body began to give the first signs that something was wrong, but he ignored them. Waking up felt like climbing out of quicksand. Getting through meetings took 3 cups of coffee. His girlfriend suggested taking a real vacation, but he was too busy. His friends asked him to hang out, and he made excuses. But you know what hurt the most? It wasn't the tiredness. It was looking in the mirror one morning and not recognizing himself anymore. His eyes looked empty. There was no light there. He realized he'd become someone he didn't even like, and David saw that, felt that, and did nothing because what could he do? This was just how life worked, right? He had tried to fix it before. Twice he started exercising for a month, but stopped. He tried meditation for 2 weeks, but gave up. He bought books about balance and energy, but never read past chapter 1. He had arrived at that dangerous place where most people die without dying. Acceptance of exhaustion. This is just how it is. I'm an adult now. This is what being responsible feels like. I don't have time. Until the day your body says enough. It was a Tuesday afternoon. David was in a meeting with his team. Nothing special, just another planning session. He was presenting the quarterly strategy when suddenly the room started spinning. His chest felt tight. He couldn't catch his breath. His hands went numb. He thought he was having a heart attack right there in front of everyone. The ambulance came. They rushed him to the hospital. After hours of tests, the doctor came in and said, "Your heart is fine." This was a panic attack. Your body is shutting down from stress and exhaustion. If you don't change something, next time might be worse. That night, David sat in his apartment and cried. He cried because he was only 35 and his body was already breaking. He cried because he realized he'd spent the last decade building a life that was killing him. He cried because he didn't even know who he was anymore or why he was doing any of this. His girlfriend came over. She didn't say much at first. She just held him. Then she said, "You need to figure out what actually matters to you, because this isn't living." The next morning, David remembered something his grandfather once told him. His grandfather had been obsessed with samurai philosophy, especially Miyamoto Musashi. He used to say, "That man fought over 60 duels and never burned out." You know why? Because he knew exactly who he was. David pulled out his phone and searched for Musashi. He read about a warrior who trained every single day, fought battles to the death, created art, wrote books, and meditated in caves, and somehow never got tired. Not the way David was tired. He read one line that stopped him cold. At 13 years old, Musashi won his first duel. After killing a grown samurai, he didn't celebrate. He went home alone and sat in silence, trying to understand what just happened. David realized something. Musashi didn't fight for approval. He didn't fight to impress anyone. He fought to understand himself. That clarity gave him endless energy. And David had been fighting for approval his entire life. Every promotion, every long hour, every sacrifice, it was all to prove something to people who didn't even care. No wonder he was exhausted. His energy was leaking through a hole he'd cut himself. You weren't always this tired. There was a time when waking up felt natural, when doing things gave you energy instead of draining it. But somewhere along the way, you started living for the wrong reasons. You started chasing goals that weren't yours, comparing yourself to people on screens, overthinking every decision, and trying to please everyone except yourself. That's when energy dies. Not from hard work, but from meaningless work. Not from effort, but from effort in the wrong direction. Your energy leaks every single day. Every time you scroll mindlessly for an hour. Every time you complain about something you're not going to change. Every time you hesitate on what you know you should do. Every time you try to prove something to someone who isn't even paying attention. Each of these moments cuts a small hole in your spirit. One hole doesn't matter, but 1,000 holes? You're trying to fill a bucket that can't hold water anymore. The fix isn't more rest. David learned this the hard way. He tried sleeping more, taking breaks, going on vacation. None of it worked because the problem wasn't physical tiredness. It was spiritual exhaustion. The fix is realignment. You need to look at your life and ask yourself one brutal question. What am I doing that doesn't actually matter to me? Then you need to let it go. All of it. Every fake obligation, every forced relationship, every goal you're chasing because you think you're supposed to. Musashi lived by one rule. Do nothing that is of no use. That's step one to never feeling tired again. Cut everything that doesn't serve your real purpose. And if you don't know your real purpose yet, that's okay. Start by cutting what you know is meaningless. The rest will become clear. Chapter 2. The Weight of Too Much. 3 weeks after his panic attack, David sat in his apartment looking around. He had everything society told him he should want. A nice place, expensive furniture, closets full of clothes he never wore, gadgets he never used, subscriptions he forgot he had. But something Musashi wrote kept echoing in his head. Do nothing that is of no use. Musashi lived like a ghost. He slept on the floor, traveled with almost nothing, sometimes went barefoot, and often didn't even carry a change of clothes. People thought he was crazy or trying to prove something, but he wasn't. He was trying to survive. In battle, every extra thought meant death. If your mind was cluttered with worries about your possessions, your reputation, or what people thought of you, you'd hesitate. And hesitation kills. So Musashi removed everything that slowed him down, not because it looked noble, because he needed his mind completely clear. David realized he was carrying the opposite. His entire life was clutter. Not just physical stuff, but mental baggage, notifications from apps he didn't care about, group chats full of gossip that didn't matter, commitments to people he didn't even like, projects at work that added nothing to his actual goals, perfectionism that kept him stuck editing things no one would notice. All of it was small. One notification isn't a big deal. One unnecessary meeting isn't the end of the world. One commitment to something you don't care about won't kill you, but 1,000 of them? 1,000 small stones in your backpack will crush you, and you'll wonder why you're so tired when you're not even doing anything that hard. David started an experiment. He called it Musashi's Purge. First, he cleaned his physical space. He got rid of half his stuff, clothes he hadn't worn in a year, books he bought to look smart but never read, Decorations that meant nothing to him, kitchen gadgets he used once, everything went. At first, it felt wasteful. But then, something shifted. Walking into his apartment started to feel different. Lighter. Breathing became easier. His mind felt less crowded. Then, he moved to digital. He deleted every app he didn't use daily. Unfollowed everyone on social media who didn't inspire him or make him think. Left group chats that were just noise. Unsubscribed from email lists he never read. Turned off every notification except texts and calls from people who actually mattered. The first day was uncomfortable. He kept reaching for his phone out of habit, finding nothing there. But by day 3, something strange happened. He felt like he could think clearly for the first time in years. Then came the hardest part, commitments. He looked at his calendar and asked himself the brutal question, if I could start over, would I say yes to this? Most of the answer was no. Networking events he hated, coffee meetings with people he didn't respect, projects he'd said yes to out of guilt or obligation. So he started saying no, not rudely, just honestly. I appreciate the offer, but I need to focus on what matters most right now. Some people understood. Some people got offended. David learned something important. The people who got offended were usually the ones draining his energy in the first place. Within a month, David's calendar had half as many things on it. His apartment felt like a place he wanted to be, instead of just a place he crashed. His phone stopped buzzing every 5 minutes. And for the first time in years, he had something he'd forgotten existed, mental space. That's when he understood what Musashi meant. Energy doesn't come from doing more. It comes from doing less with complete focus. Think about your own life right now. How many tabs do you have open in your mind? How many things are you tracking, worrying about, maintaining, that add absolutely nothing to who you want to become? Your brain is a muscle. It has a limited capacity. Every single thing you commit to, own, worry about, or pay attention to takes up space. And unlike a computer, you can't just add more RAM. You have what you have. So the question becomes, what are you spending it on? Most people spend their mental energy on things that don't matter. Keeping up with news they can't change. Following drama they're not part of. Maintaining relationships that drain them. Owning things that require maintenance. Pursuing goals they don't even want. And then they wonder why they're exhausted. Here's the truth. You're not tired because life is hard. You're tired because you're carrying too much useless weight. Start small. Today, right now, do 3 things. First, clean one space, your desk, your closet, your car. Get rid of everything you don't use or love. Physical clutter creates mental clutter. You can feel the difference immediately. Second, simplify your routine. Look at your daily habits. How many of them are just things you do because you've always done them? Cut anything that doesn't actively make your life better. Make your mornings simpler. Make your evenings clearer. Create space instead of filling time. Third, let go of one draining relationship or commitment. That friend who only calls to complain. That obligation you agreed to months ago and have been dreading ever since. That project you're forcing yourself to care about. Let it go. Politely, kindly, but firmly. You'll feel guilty at first. That's normal. You've been taught that saying no is selfish, that owning less means you're not successful, that cutting things from your life means you're giving up. But Musashi would tell you the opposite. Saying no to what doesn't matter is how you say yes to what does. Owning less means being owned by less. Cutting things from your life isn't giving up. It's waking up. Energy doesn't come from addition. It comes from subtraction. Every unnecessary thing you remove creates space for what actually matters. And when you're only carrying what matters, you stop feeling so damn tired all the time. Chapter 3. The 2 parts of limitless energy. 2 months after his panic attack, David noticed something strange. He was working the same number of hours, but he felt completely different. Some days he'd finish work actually energized. Other days, even after doing less, he'd feel completely drained. He couldn't figure out why until he found Musashi's concept of Hyoshi rhythm. Musashi wrote, "Cadence is inherent in all things." He understood that energy isn't about intensity, it's about rhythm. Think about music. A drummer doesn't hit every beat at maximum power. That would sound terrible and exhaust them in minutes. They follow rhythm. Some beats strong, some soft, some silent. That's what creates music instead of noise. Your energy works the same way. You can't be on all the time. You can't be off all the time. You need rhythm. But most people don't have rhythm. They have chaos. David realized his problem. He was never fully working and never fully resting. During work hours, he'd be on his computer, but also checking his phone, thinking about other tasks, half present. During rest time, he'd be watching TV, but also checking emails, worrying about tomorrow, mentally still at work. He was half engaged all the time. And that's the most exhausting way to live. It's like driving with one foot on the gas and one foot on the brake simultaneously. You make noise, you create heat, you go nowhere, and you waste all your fuel. That's exactly what David had been doing for years. Musashi's solution was simple but brutal. Be completely where you are. When you work, work fully. When you rest, rest fully. No middle ground. David created two clear states in his life. He called them sword mode and stillness mode, borrowing from Musashi's philosophy. Sword mode meant complete engagement. When he entered this state, only one thing existed. If he was working on a project, that project was his entire universe. Phone off, notifications silenced, door closed. He'd set a timer for 90 minutes and give everything to that single task. At first, 90 minutes felt impossible. His mind kept wandering. He wanted to check his phone. He thought of other things he should be doing, but he forced himself to stay. Just 90 minutes. Musashi wrote, "Think of killing your opponent with a single strike." David applied that to his work. Every task deserved his full attention, as if his life depended on it. After a week of this practice, something shifted. Those 90-minute blocks started feeling natural. He'd enter a state where time disappeared. Hours felt like minutes. And when he finished, he felt tired but satisfied, like he'd actually accomplished something real instead of just being busy. Then came stillness mode. This was harder. True rest meant no checking anything, no scrolling just for a minute, no thinking about work, complete disengagement. David started taking walks without his phone. At first, his hands felt empty. His mind raced. What if someone needed him? What if he missed something important? But he kept walking. Just him, his breath, and the world around him. He noticed things he'd never seen before. Trees he'd walked past for years, the way light changed throughout the day, how his body felt when he wasn't distracted. These walks became sacred, 20 minutes of pure stillness every afternoon. He also changed how he rested at home. No more sitting on the couch with his laptop open, TV on, phone in hand, mind everywhere. Now, when he sat, he just sat. When he watched something, he actually watched it. When he read, he read. The difference was night and day. Real rest actually restored him. He'd finish his evening and feel ready for the next day instead of dreading it. But David learned something deeper from Musashi. Having the right structure, work blocks and rest blocks, wasn't enough. You also need to control what happens inside that structure. Musashi wrote about Munen Muso, the strike of non-thought. In battle, thinking gets you killed. You must act from pure instinct, pure presence. No mental commentary, no second guessing, just action. David realized his exhaustion wasn't from his work. It was from his thoughts about the work, the constant mental chatter running in the background like apps draining his phone battery. He identified 3 types of thought that were killing his energy. First, replaying the past. Every conversation he'd had, every mistake he'd made, every moment he wished he could redo. He'd replay them endlessly. Why did I say that? I should have done it differently. What were they thinking? This wasn't reflection. It was torture. And it drained him because he was using present energy to re-experience past moments that were already over. The past was gone, but he kept it alive in his mind, draining himself in the process. Second, rehearsing the future, worrying about everything that might happen, planning conversations that would never occur exactly how he imagined, imagining problems that didn't exist yet. What if this goes wrong? How will I handle that? What will they think? He was fighting imaginary battles, using real energy. Most of what he worried about never happened, but the worry exhausted him anyway. Third, judging the present, constantly evaluating everything. Is this good? Is this bad? Should this be happening? I should be further along. This shouldn't be this hard. Comparing himself to others. Wishing his reality were different. This was the worst drain of all because he was fighting reality itself, and reality always wins. The fight exhausted him for nothing. All three of these ran constantly in the background. Even when David wasn't actively thinking them, they were there. A quiet anxiety, a subtle tension, a sense of unease he couldn't name, like apps running on his phone that he forgot to close, draining the battery without him realizing it. Musashi's solution? Return to center. In sword fighting, after every strike, you return your sword to center position, ready for anything, committed to nothing. The same applies to your mind. David practiced this constantly. When he noticed his mind replaying the past, he didn't fight it. He just noticed it and returned to his breath. When he caught himself worrying about the future, he noticed it and returned to what was in front of him. When he found himself judging the moment, he noticed it and came back to simply experiencing it. It wasn't about stopping thoughts. It was about not feeding them. Thoughts are like birds flying overhead. You can't stop them from flying, but you can stop them from building nests in your hair. After 3 months of practicing both rhythm and stillness, David's energy transformed completely. He worked less but accomplished more. He rested less but felt more restored. And that background exhaustion that had followed him for years, it disappeared. He finally understood Musashi's secret. Energy isn't about motivation or willpower. It's about structure and focus working together. Master your rhythm, master your mind, and you'll never feel tired again. Chapter 4. The Way of No Preferences. 5 months into his transformation, David faced his biggest test. His company announced layoffs. His position was safe, but his entire team was being restructured. The project he had spent 2 years building was being handed to someone else. Everything he'd worked for, gone. The old David would have spiraled. He would have spent weeks replaying every decision, wondering what he did wrong, resenting the unfairness of it all. That mental torture would have drained him completely. But David had been studying Musashi's 11th principle. In all things, do not have any preferences. At first, this seemed insane. No preferences about anything? That's impossible. But Musashi wasn't talking about not caring. He was talking about not fighting reality. David realized something profound. His exhaustion didn't come from what happened to him. It came from resisting what happened to him. Every time he preferred reality to be different than it was, he drained his energy fighting a battle he couldn't win. Think about 2 people stuck in the same traffic jam. One is furious, gripping the steering wheel, cursing every car, checking the time constantly. By the time they arrive, they're exhausted and angry. The other person accepts it, puts on music or a podcast, and arrives calm. Same traffic, different energy levels. The difference? One fought reality. One accepted it. Musashi understood this deeply. Before every duel, he didn't waste energy wishing for an easier opponent. He didn't think, I hope this guy is slow, or why do I have to fight today? He simply saw what was in front of him, assessed what it required, and did that thing with complete attention. No resistance, no complaint, no wasted energy. Just complete engagement with reality as it is. David started noticing how much energy he wasted on preferences. Every single one created constant background drain. When he preferred sunny weather and it rained, he felt annoyed all day. When he preferred his commute to be quick and traffic was slow, his mood tanked. When he preferred people to act a certain way, and they didn't, he'd spend hours mentally arguing with them. Each preference required 4 types of energy. First, monitoring. His brain constantly checked, am I getting what I prefer? This ran in the background all day, every day. Second, resistance. When he didn't get what he preferred, he'd fight against reality emotionally. Third, seeking. He'd actively try to force reality to match his preference. Fourth, avoiding. He'd run from what he didn't prefer, creating elaborate systems to dodge discomfort. All of this happened automatically, draining him without him even noticing. The restructuring at work became his practice ground. Instead of preferring it hadn't happened, he asked, Okay, this is reality. What does this reality require from me? Instead of resenting the person taking over his project, he thought, what can I learn from this? Where does this free me to go? Something amazing happened. Within days, he felt lighter. The situation hadn't changed, but his relationship to it had. He wasn't fighting anymore. And without that fight, he had energy for what actually mattered. He started applying this everywhere. When his girlfriend was in a bad mood, instead of preferring she be happy and trying to fix it, he just gave her space. When his flight got delayed, instead of fuming about it, he used the time to read. When a project at work took longer than expected, instead of stressing about the timeline, he focused on doing it well. Every time he dropped a preference, he felt energy return. It was like removing weights he didn't know he was carrying. Here's what most people don't understand. Preferences create constant tension in your body. Every time you resist reality, your shoulders tighten, your jaw clenches, your breathing gets shallow, your chest constricts. This happens automatically, and this physical tension drains energy faster than any workout. But when you stop fighting reality, your body relaxes, your breath deepens, your mind clears, and suddenly you have energy you forgot existed. This doesn't mean being passive. Musashi wasn't passive. He was one of the most effective warriors in history, but he never wasted energy wishing his opponent was different. He worked with what was there. You can do the same. When something happens you don't like, you have two choices. Fight reality and drain yourself, or accept reality and direct your energy toward what you can actually change. Traffic is slow. You can't change it. Accept it and use the time well. Your boss is difficult. You can't change them. Accept it and decide how you'll respond. The weather ruined your plans. Accept it and make new plans. This one shift from resistance to acceptance changed everything for David. He stopped being tired from fighting battles that didn't exist. And that energy? He redirected it toward building something new, something better, something actually aligned with who he wanted to become. Musashi fought empty. No preferences weighing him down, no resistance draining his energy. Just pure engagement with whatever stood in front of him. That's why he never burned out. And that's available to you too, the moment you stop fighting reality and start working with it. Chapter 5. The Stillness Inside Movement. 6 months after his panic attack, David discovered something unexpected. The more intensely he worked, the more energy he had, but only when he worked a certain way. He'd been reading about Musashi's life between duels. Musashi didn't just fight. Between battles, he would sit by rivers and meditate for hours. He painted beautiful landscapes. He carved wooden sculptures. He wrote poetry. People thought this was strange. Why would a warrior waste time on art? But Musashi understood something most people miss. He said, "The way of the sword and the way of art are one and the same. Both required the same thing, complete presence." When he painted, every brushstroke demanded his full attention. When he carved wood, every cut had to be precise. When he meditated by the river, every breath brought him deeper into stillness. He wasn't relaxing. He was training a different kind of strength, the strength to be completely present. And he discovered that if you can master stillness in one area of life, it spills into everything else. He wrote, "From one thing, know 10,000 things." David realized his problem. His mind never stopped, ever. He woke up already thinking about his day. He ate while scrolling. He worked while thinking about other work. He rested while his mind raced through tomorrow's problems. Even when his body stopped moving, his mind kept sprinting. No wonder he was exhausted. His mind had been running a marathon every single day for years without rest. Musashi and the samurai found something different. They found rest inside movement. Every swing of the sword was meditation. Every step was mindfulness. Every breath in battle was peace. Their bodies moved intensely, but their minds stayed still. And that's where true energy lives. David needed to find his version of this, his stillness point inside the chaos. He started with his morning workout. Before, he'd exercise while planning his day, solving problems, rehearsing conversations. His body moved, but his mind was somewhere else. Now, he made his workout a moving meditation. When he lifted weights, he focused only on the movement. When he ran, he focused only on his breath and his footsteps. Nothing else existed. At first, his mind rebelled. It wanted to think, to plan, to solve, but he kept bringing it back. Just this movement, just this breath, just this moment. After 2 weeks, something shifted. His workouts stopped draining him. Instead, they energized him. He'd finish feeling clear and alive, not tired. Same physical effort, completely different result. He found stillness in other places too. Walking became meditation, not walking while listening to podcasts or planning, just walking. Feeling his feet touch the ground, noticing the world around him, being completely where he was. Cooking became meditation, not cooking while watching TV, just cooking. Chopping vegetables with full attention, feeling the textures, smelling the ingredients, being present with the process. Even his work changed. When he wrote, he wrote. No email open in another tab, no phone nearby, no music, just him and the words. And the words came easier because his mind wasn't divided. This is the secret Musashi discovered. When your body moves but your mind stays still, energy flows endlessly. You stop exhausting yourself with mental noise. You stop fighting yourself with divided attention. Find your stillness point. Maybe it's in your workout. Maybe it's in walking or writing or painting or cooking or just sitting in silence. It doesn't matter what it is. What matters is that you find one thing where your mind can rest while your body moves, or your body can rest while your mind focuses. One thing where you're completely present, completely there, not split into 1,000 pieces. Master that one thing, and like Musashi said, you'll understand 10,000 things. The stillness will start showing up everywhere, and with it, endless energy. Chapter 6, The True Source of Energy. 1 year after his panic attack, David took a week off work. Not to travel, not to visit anyone. Just to be alone and think. He drove to a small cabin in the mountains. No Wi-Fi, no TV, just him, some books, and silence. He thought about Musashi's final years, how after 60 duels and decades of training, Musashi retired to a cave called Reigondo. He lived there alone, writing the Book of 5 Rings, a lifetime of wisdom condensed into one final teaching. And what he wrote was simple. True strength comes from knowing yourself completely, without illusion or distraction. Sitting in that cabin, David realized something. For his entire adult life, he'd been exhausted because he'd been living someone else's life, chasing promotions he didn't actually want, maintaining relationships that drained him, building toward goals that meant nothing to him personally. No wonder he had no energy. He was running a race he never chose to enter. The world had sold him a lie. That caffeine would save him. That comfort would fulfill him. That validation from others would make him feel whole. He'd bought it all. 3 cups of coffee a day, a nice apartment to impress people, a lifestyle designed to look good on social media. None of it filled the emptiness because energy doesn't come from outside you. It comes from alignment. Musashi didn't need motivation. He didn't need luxury. He didn't need anyone's approval. He had one thing that made him unstoppable: clarity. He knew exactly who he was and what mattered to him. And when your actions, beliefs, and goals all point in the same direction, energy becomes infinite. David spent that week asking himself hard questions. What actually matters to me? Not what should matter, not what others think should matter. What actually lights something inside me? What would I do even if no one ever knew about it? What makes me feel alive instead of drained? The answers surprised him. He didn't actually care about climbing the corporate ladder. What he cared about was creating things that helped people. He didn't actually want a big social circle. What he wanted was a few deep connections with people who challenged him to grow. He didn't actually need an impressive lifestyle. What he needed was freedom and time to think. Everything he'd been chasing for years wasn't even his dream. It was just a collection of things society told him he should want. And chasing someone else's dreams is the most exhausting thing you can do. When he got back from that week, David made changes, big ones. He turned down a promotion that would have meant more money but less time. He ended 3 friendships that were built on nothing but history and habit. He moved to a smaller, cheaper place in a neighborhood he actually liked. He started working on a side project that excited him, even though it paid nothing. His coworkers thought he was crazy. His family worried about him. Some friends stopped calling. But something amazing happened. For the first time in his adult life, David woke up with energy. Not because he slept more, because he was finally living aligned with who he actually was. If you want to stop being tired, you need to stop living a divided life. Stop saying yes to things that don't matter to you. Stop fighting battles that don't move you toward anything real. Stop pretending to be someone you're not. Start walking your own path. Musashi called it Dokudo, the way of walking alone. It doesn't mean being antisocial or isolated. It means having the courage to follow your own direction, even when it looks different from everyone else's. Because here's the truth. Most people are exhausted because they're living for approval, validation, or to meet someone else's expectations. They wake up tired because they're not living their own life. They're performing someone else's idea of what life should look like. You don't need more rest. You need more purpose. You don't need more motivation. You need more clarity. You don't need to do more. You need to do what actually matters. 2 years after his panic attack, David looked completely different, not physically, though he did look healthier. What changed was his presence. There was light in his eyes again. When he walked into a room, he carried himself differently. Calm, grounded, present. People asked him constantly, "How did you fix your energy? What's your secret?" David would smile and say, "I stopped trying to be impressive and started trying to be true. I stopped living for outcomes and started living for clarity. I stopped carrying what didn't matter and made space for what did. That's it. That's the whole secret." If you've made it this far in the video, that means something in you is searching for this same clarity. You're tired of being tired. You're ready to stop performing and start living. So let me ask you something. What's one thing in your life right now that you're doing only because you think you should? What's one commitment, one goal, one habit that's draining you because it was never really yours to begin with? Comment below. Write it down. Make it real, because when you name what's draining you, you can finally let it go. And when you let go of what doesn't belong, you make space for what does. Space for your real purpose. Space for your real energy. Space for your real life. If this video helped you, do me a favor. Subscribe to the channel, like this video, and comment with the one thing you're going to change starting today. Not your whole life plan, just one thing. The smallest thing. The thing you can do tomorrow. Because transformation doesn't start with massive change. It starts with one aligned choice, then another, until one day you wake up and realize you're not tired anymore. You're just finally living. Thank you so much for your attention and your time. This means you're serious about your transformation. See you in the next video. And remember, be present, walk with honor, follow the path.